2021 tarehe 21 mwezi wa 5 mwaka 2021. Natumai kwamba uko salama. Kama unakimbia ofisini, natumai kwamba tayari ushafika pale kazini. Kama unaenda mjengo kutafuta riziki ya siku, natumai kwamba ushafika kwenye jua kali, kwenye vibanda ili tuweze kuchapa kazi. Nasema kazi ni kazi, wera ni wera. Wengine wanasema pia mboka ni mboka. It's good to see you this Sheria Wiki. Dr. Ekuru Court's panel takes a break this week. Kwa sababu alikuwa on Tuesday. On Tuesday, Nelson Avi and Dr. Ekuru Court, PLO Mulumba walikuwa on Tuesday, so they're taking a break on Friday, this Friday, on Sheria Wiki. Lakini tuko na panel nyingine, vile mnavyoona kuna jamaa anaitwa NDUNG'U WANAINA, is a governance expert. Then we also have NOORDEAN KHAGAI. He's not new here, so it's his second time here. Ni wakili pia, na ni consultant governance and governance consultant, governance leadership consultant. So it's good to have you guys. Please, I request that you join in. Please like, as usual. Please like, and after like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. When you join in, please like. When you like, I know that you're watching us. And after like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is a tackle, and the tackle begins now. Lakini kama kawaida, kabla tuanze kazi, lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu. Haya, mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for this program. We thank you for everything that you've given us to do. As we all wake up to go and do it, we pray that you may bless the work of our hands, Father. I thank you for the tacklers watching us this morning. I pray that you may meet them at their point of individual needs. Even the panel that's here with us, I hope that you're going to let them and give them the grace. State of the nation. Kama unataka kupiga simu tuambie hali ikoje mahali ulipo. Kama kaida tunaanza State of the Nation 0779-800-010 or 779-800-010. State of the Nation 0779-800-010 or 779-800-010 800-010 or 779-800-010 or 779-800-010. State of the Nation. Good morning, Jeff Binyo. Answer good morning. Good morning to you, Kakifate. Good morning, Takol. Good morning to you, Rashid Abdulacha Maswed. Number 1 pub. Namba ngapi? Number 5. Karibu sana. Jimmy Mary. Good morning. Good morning to Stephen Kiprotis Algon. Anasema good morning, GB. Good morning to you, my brother. Good to see you. Klein Kelvin writing. Thank you, Mungali, to continue from Coventry, United Kingdom. Answer morning, team Takol, tuning in from Coventry, United Kingdom. Leon Diosikuile, looking forward to the show. Thank you so much, my brother. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for always watching and for always making time. Muriki Martin, good morning. Good morning to you, sir. Isaac Chumba, morning to you, boss. John Kocho, good morning. Tuned in from Maruti Langata. Chiriat Korir Joram, good morning. Jerabito, good morning to you, my brother. Good to see you. Amos Kibruta Lagat, good morning to you. Mr. Jera, good morning to you. Amo Robaso Gom, nakuona sana kaka. Good morning, my brother. Tuned in from the UGC. Ulitoka Dubai ama ilikuwa wapi? Haya, karibu lakini Roba. Daisy Maritim, good morning, tuned in from Utawala, MCA Utawala. Mheshimiwa Daisy Maritim, karibu sana. Dixon Sambai, good morning. Gerald nakuona. Nderitu, naona umeshare tayari. Asante sana Aaron Nderitu. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Really appreciate. Aaron Nderitu, good morning. GB Juja constituency theta word well tuned. Asante sana watu wa Juja. Nashukuru sana kuona. Lady Tosha Rosie from Tarbo anasema watching live. Asante sana Rosie. Rosie Lady Tosha mwenyewe Rosley Yala. I got to see you, Rosie. Leonard Serem, good morning. Gerald tuned in from Sydney. Thank you so much, Leonard. Good to see you. I didn't see you yesterday. Good morning, Gerald tuned in from Sydney, Australia. Asante sana to the land down under in Australia. Na ngoja kuna ambassador wafike hapa wa Path. Babake Willis, and good morning. Good morning to you, Babake Willis. Faith Wachu, good morning, Gerald. Good morning to you, Faith. James Mwenda, good morning. 012. Asante sana. Geja Graphics, good morning. Iko maswali. Uliza maswali Keja. Kiblaka Vincent live and clear at Earth River. Asante sana to Earth River. Alex Mahara tuned in kabisa. Asante sana. Bakin Wanzia. Ansema mne. Jambo Bakin. It's good to see you, Bakin. Lakini waandiki ya mneuliza mtu atakuonyesha vile wanaandika hii maneno. Zakaria Zaki, good morning from London, UK. Asante sana to London. Thank you so much guys who are tuning in from London, UK. We really appreciate you. All the London guys, it's good to see you. The UK guys, it's a pleasure to have you. Kama kina Alutamunga naona Zakaria Zaki. Yuko Isaac Okeka, good morning from Kisii. Asante Ezra Mayo, good morning to you following from Doha, Qatar. Asante sana to Qatar na watu wa Middle East. Clovian Paul, good morning Gerald, live from Utawala. Thank you so much. Viola Biwat, good morning. Ansema following, asante sana. Stephen Flemston Tomaga following from Thika Show, iko bambam. Asante sana. Thank you so much Stephen Flemston Tomaga. This Sheria Wiki on Friday of 21st May 2021. Tarehe ni 21 mwezi wa 5 mwaka 2021. This Sheria Wiki show ambayo inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuuliza kuwa na mazungumzo ya kikatiba ama sheria. These are you have all the discussions legal. If you have any questions that touches on legal or governance, please shoot it here tuweze kuzungumza pamoja. Na kimtai Kitonyi, good morning Gerald tuned in from Eldoret. Asante sana Kama Mzing, good morning from Marwa Nyeri, asante sana. Mzee Bolbito mwenye anasema Mereweti is tuned in Sheria Wiki Hii. Tell us the meaning of all these lawyers come politicians paraded to present BBI, including Otienda Molo, James Orengo, the men who are fighting the process the other day. Haya, ana Pakin Munzala anasema asante sana. Govin Paul anasema thank you for your support the other day. Be blessed. Asante sana. Thank you so much, Govin Paul. I really appreciate. Asante sana. Na hope the mambo itakuwa shwari. Don't worry, things will be okay. Yevi Mar anasema following from Bomet. Hey, PK Kumuta anasema Tibim from Nairobi CBD. Asante sana PK. Finally urudi Nairobi. Unajua ulikuwa umeenda kutesa huko mashinani. It's good to have you back in Nairobi. Anyway, acha tuingie kazi. Kama uko na swali yote ya kikatiba ama governance, tafadhali nishutie pale ndani. Lakini azile tunaanza, acha niende kwa panel yangu. Naanza na Nurdin. Nurdin, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
How are you? Good to see you. It's been a long time.
A very long time, but nashukuru.
Umekukingana na nini umepotea?
Tumekuwa na unajua hii maneno ya sheria lazima tunangangana nayo daily. Kila siku kuna mambo mpya inatokea, so lazima you have to be abreast of what is happening. And also so you know I have certain interest come 2022. So pale Dagoretti North, I'm actually just trying to see how things are going and trying to do some empowerment here and there. Yeah.
By the way, ulikuwa unasema unataka kiti gani? What were you running? Which seat were you running for?
Member of Parliament.
For Dagoretti North.
Yes.
Okay, nice. Unaona chapa ground. Acha watu wa Dagoretti North. Unaona kuna kijana mwepesi hapa. Anyway, state of the nation.
You see where we are as a country today. If we just first and foremost focus on this week, for example, and you look at the by-elections that happened this week on Tuesday, it's a sad reality because it has clearly shown that the problem in Kenya is not the constitution.
Okay.
The problem is with the people who have actually sat on those seats courtesy of either being elected or appointed. Because if you look at the by-elections in Juja and Bonchari, it was more or less like a police recruitment exercise, because there are instances of intimidation which brought about a low voter turnout. Some people will say maybe because it was on a working day, but I tend to differ because we saw so many arrests being carried out. We saw people complaining about how the excess was being carried out. And it's a sad reality because clearly the constitution as it is, it has no problem. Okay. The problem we have in Kenya is we have a leadership crisis because we have lowered the leadership threshold in Kenya, where every Tom, Dick and Harry ascends to power. And once they get there, you know, they say absolute power corrupts. So they end up being corrupted. And they believe that they will run the affairs of the nation, forgetting that the power they're exercising is actually delegated to them.
Belongs to the people.
Because the power is with the people. Okay. The people only delegate the power. So when the people decide, it's more or less like an employment contract. When the people decide that you have to go home and Bitok takes over, it is the people's decision. You realize?
Yes.
So we need to have a serious discussion on the leadership of the country, because going forward with an election coming in 2022, if this is a precursor, then we are going to have a shambolic election. Yes.
Okay. All right. NDUNG'U WANAINA, it's a pleasure to have you.
Great. I think it's a privilege to be here. It's my first time.
I know it's your first time. You said it's not your first time.
I am in the media. So the good thing is I love the kind of issues that get discussed here.
Thank you so much.
I think they frame the real discourse out there. But I think also the other aspect is connection.
So you've been following?
Yeah. It's my day-to-day thing. I have to do it.
Santa sana.
The thing between connections and also the reach. I think also that's something else that's very important because connects local with their own brothers outside there. Yeah. So that connection is very, very important. On terms of where the country is, I think we are still submerged in a health crisis that Kenyans have a very little understanding of where we stand. It seems the government refused to invest in testing. It refused to invest now on vaccination. They have now left Kenyans to fight for themselves.
May the best immunity win.
I think that was the statement that was coming out yesterday, that even if you got one shot, at MACU, we have not even been able to get even 1 million. We have only at 958,000 people who have just got the first shot. So we don't know when we'll get that. There's a promise. So we don't know exactly where our health crisis is. Second thing is the country is stuttering on economic matters. I think we don't seem to have a very clear trajectory where we are going. I see a situation where the government is still treating the economic fallout out of health crisis as a situation of normality, which is not. Then one sad story that I think is when I saw by the end of the week, last week, the government had not honored its promise of releasing 15 billion to primary and secondary schools. That means that the schools opened and there was no money, so that in itself poses a serious...
Without funds.
Okay. Then of course we still have we are keeping having crisis of lack of jobs.
Help here, hakuna help.
So we're still having a serious problem, job losses. Businesses are still struggling. Many are closing. The revival of business is a big challenge, which means that the single largest employer of this in this country, literally, is on this knees. So from a governance side, I think we are still witnessing the resurgence of a police state, which doesn't tell us a very good story. And finally is that I think we Kenyans don't learn. I think we make so many mistakes, then we don't correct them. After that mistake and its consequences, which in most cases are normally fairly fatal, we proceed on and then roll on the boat. We don't seem to be preparing for 2022 general election, and it's going to be a high-stake elections, actually. This is another election which, if you are not careful, can easily take us back to where we were in 2007. So we need to start thinking seriously about 22 general election and its preparedness. And I think that when I looked at the IEBC, how it conducted the by-election, I saw an institution in its deathbed. And I don't think that it is prepared very well on how to manage the elections come 2022.
Okay, so you feel the nominations were not done in the right way? It's
not just about the nomination. It's there is a very important ruling that was actually. It's a High Court ruling and a Court of Appeal ruling in under Article 138 of the Constitution, and then the High Court ruling in 2017 and the Court of Appeal. They ruled very specifically that the election, all the election matters start and end at the polling station. So today, you can be able to be transmitting results as they are being announced by presiding officer at a polling station. That's the Constitution, and that's the decision of the court. So Kenyans are now going to get real-time results. When you look at the way the IBC managed these elections, they were still behaving as though you are carrying boxes of votes and papers to a constituency tallying, and that constituency correlation center was declared by the court, both the High Court and Court of Appeal, as it can only correlate the final results from the polling station. It cannot even alter. But the IBC is still behaving like as though we are running elections from maybe polling, it's called what, that constituency correlation center. And then I am also expecting that by 2022 they'll have set a big tent in Bomas to come and announce results. Yet things shifted long time ago. So we haven't shifted from the old way of managing the elections. So that for me worries me a lot. We do not have we have not transformed our electoral system to comply with the Constitution and the High Court and the Court of Ruling of 2017.
So, NOORDEAN, do you feel we're making any progress? Because the point of conflicts, even when our brothers talking about 2007 and 2017, resistance as the last election, 2017, 2018, the biggest convention has been around the electoral body, which is IBC, and the electoral process. And I remember the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta was nullified, not because of any other, but because of the process. Tracing your vote. Like, can I trace my vote from my village? I vote all the way to Nairobi. And part of the conversation has been the differences between the difference in figures and process between the ground where I cast my vote and where it is announced. Do you feel we have gone to a point where we feel confident about our institution, our electoral institution?
I don't think so, because you see, first and foremost, our institutions they are more or less independent. They need for people to have faith in IBC. Integrity needs to be one, a core factor in the commissioners. Two, independence of that institution, so that people can actually believe the results that are announced. Secondly, you see, like he said, there's this, like what was happening in Juja. You see, that is really sad, because once a polling station has results, then those are the final results from that area. So no one can alter that, because even the form is even signed, right? So when we want to take the country back to a place where one person can sit somewhere and manipulate results from an area, that is very sad, because at the end of the day, the country has not, we keep saying that the country is moved on, the country healed, but in essence, it hasn't. And that is why you see people keep saying, let us take care we don't go back to 2007, because there are those people who never healed from that situation. So we need IBC first and foremost, as you can see, the courts even said, as you can see, it's not well constituted, and it's by design. It's nothing happens in this world as a coincidence. It is crippled by design, because if you want,
but IBC are process, they have said we are okay. 3 commissioners is enough quorum.
But that
is it?
That is the maximum. Why haven't we filled the
optimum?
Yes, because at the end of the day, it has been years. Why haven't we filled the vacancies? That is by design. It's being crippled for a reason.
Okay.
And as you can see, we are not ready for the elections, as he's saying, because a year to election, actually a year and some months to the election, and we're still talking about vacancies in the IBC. Then the same IBC has to plan for an election. The same IBC hasn't even planned for the election, because you can't plan and you are not well constituted. It doesn't make sense, But you're talking about, first wait a minute, let us plan for referendum. It doesn't make sense, because before even a referendum, you have to do voter registration, because there are those people who in 2017 were in high school. Right now, they're eligible to vote. Okay. Have you done voter registration? Those are the questions we're asking. So clearly, they're in a shambolic state. They haven't even planned themselves well. And that is a recipe for chaos. It's like walking to the kitchen and you have nothing to cook and you're expecting food on the table. It's never going to come.
Okay. Do you feel IBC is well constituted?
It's not actually about IBC. This is the scheme of things. If you want to understand. If you want to,
it's a systematic strategy.
If you want to understand any institutions that we created under the Constitution 2010, if you want to understand the proper problem of an institution, you need to look at 4 things. Okay. You need to look at the legal and institutional independence of that institution. That's the first thing you need to look at. Secondly, you need to look at the structural character of that institution, right? And that's what NOORDEAN is talking about, whether the IBC is properly constituted or not, and whether it has appropriate structures, the personnel and all that. Mark you, IBC, as we are talking now, still has a serious deficit of senior staff. In fact, the ones even the CEO is actually acting.
It's missing.
So even the senior staff in the IBC itself is a problem. So you are recruiting commissioners, and then after that, you recruit senior staff. So even before we talk about, that's what you call the structural design of the institution. That is operational. What you see in terms of electoral management is operational aspect of the commission, and it's not just the IBC, any other commission. You have to look at the structural operations. And then finally is the financial independence. One of the things that has succeeded in this country is this, that all the independent institutions in this country, including judiciary, they have been made sure that they do not have financial independence.
They are pseudo-independent.
Yes. Actually, because even when you have, like judiciary, for instance, the Constitution is expressly clear. There has to be established judicial service, judicial fund. It has never been operationalized. So even if it is there in the Constitution, but it has never. Once an institution doesn't have financial independence, that's the end of that institution, because it depends on day-to-day life. So if Kenyans want to ask them, and the Constitution cured that, the only mistake the Constitution design failed to do is to ensure expressly, it states, for instance, we should have an electoral fund managed directly by the electoral body. You should have already stated that we should have national police fund, so that police do no longer keep knocking door at Harambee House for money. We should have, all these commissions should have their own independence. Then their reporting mechanism is expressly direct to the parliament, because that should be the design of things. So what we are facing here is a crisis of those 4 factors. legal and institutional independence. That is already guaranteed in the Constitution, but not operationalized. We have, then you have two internal factors. The structural, that is in terms of having the correct structure of the institution itself. Then you have the operational system. What you saw in Juja, Rorie, and Bonchari is a precise case of a failure of operation of the commission. How does IBC have audacity of actually stopping election correlation at Juja just because thugs, and mark you, a police officer who has been officially gazetted on matters of elections, that officer is accountable to either the presiding officer or the returning officer. But in the situation where we had in this case is where the IBC lost control of its own operational management. Then finally is that IBC is still begging for money for it to operate. And not just IBC, it's other. So if you look at in totality, what we have is a constitution that gave us the appropriate tools, the normatives, but we refused to operationalize and enforce those tools. So what we are dealing with is not just institutional capture, but it's actually institutional manipulation and interference. But not because you don't have legal, constitutional legal norms for that, but it is precisely because an independent IBC means it will be able to deliver outcomes that are not desirable to the people who have captured the state and owned it. So that's precisely where our crisis is. And it's that extent, not just the commission, the commissions, the independent office. Look at the office of the Auditor General, the control of the office of the Attorney General. The Constitution is expressly clear. The core mandate of the office of the holder of the office of the Attorney General is to defend public interest and is to protect public interest and defend rule of law. So when you see an Attorney General who behaves like a private law practitioner of an individual, then you start to see how the bigger crisis, our crisis is, basically.
Okay, that's an interesting perception coming from our brother NDUNG'U WANAINA. But again, it makes you question, and you mentioned it quite carefully, that nothing happens by coincidence. And when you look, is it by design that we have failing institutions? Is it by design but IBC does not function the way it's supposed to be? Is it by design but the judiciary is where it is? Is it by design that we are where we are as a country? Anyway, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yes, let me tell you this. And this is where I think my main message to Kenyans today is this. Kenya is still what you call a CETRA outpost. And when I use the word CETRA, people think it's a mzungu. No. It is the DNA of our country, our political system, our economic system, social system, has that CETRA DNA, which is its origin, its design, its architecture, has a colonial history. When the Muzungu came here, one thing they did is to develop a different model of governance and economic. That is precisely what we are. We have remained that CETRA outpost. BBI, just to comment about BBI, to link the BBI, was essentially a design of handing over power from one controller of the CETRA outpost to the next.
The next, okay.
It was simply as that. So when
it's an inheritance strategy.
Precisely. And the thing what happens is this, is that if you're going to have a Constitution 2010 operating the way it is designed, because this was, Constitution 2010 was the constitution that overthrew that CETRA economic and the political system. So BBI was to restore that system. So if you allow the system, if you allow the constitution to keep operating the way it is operating, basically means you get an independent judiciary, you don't control. You get the police that operates on its own. You get now they have revived provincial commission or administration, even and give it more more power, then it also means that you don't have independent officers. You don't have. When you have a situation where you do not control those instruments, those political institutions, those governance institutions, what that means is that the citizens have a control and ownership of their country to the disadvantage of the settlers. And when I use the word settlers, you exactly understand what I mean. That is why even the economic design of our country is designed that way. You know, you have close to about 85% of our economic base being where all the 85% of our employment is. But that economic hub of ours is actually treated as secondary, irrelevant, right? When you are starting, the first thing you said is that Jamaa wa mjengo, wherever you are going, know that you are appreciated. That means we are, and this is what the COVID has brought out. COVID has brought out people who are invisible, but they're the drivers of this country.
Of the economy.
Not just the economy, even our own homes. You find the people we treat like casually. They have emerged as our heroes. Why? Because it's when you came to Liasby talk, the person you have always seen like, ni mtu tu, wakutuma, wakufanya, is a person actually who has been doing everything for you.
Yeah.
So it has brought that. So when you look at where the design of the BBI, the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2010, and where it was coming from, you need to have that conceptualization of how a settler outpost works and how one controller or administrator of the outpost seeks to transfer power and authority to the next controller and administrator of that outpost. So therefore, the design of killing constitution, the design of killing institutions, it is not just a question of design. It is a question of a state capture and repurposing the state and the institutions towards that goal. That's precisely what. So IBC has to be captured, controlled, and derived towards delivering the outcome of sustaining the controllers and administrators of that outpost. That is precisely what is happening. The police are the enforcers. Police are the enforcers. So you need to
supposed to curb it.
That is, the police are the enforcers. So the brutality you see with police, they are enforcing those rules. And that means that this is something else Kenyans need to understand. This settler outpost has 3 core features. It is based on a very parasitic model of operation. It is based on a very predatory model, and it is very extractive. That is how it works. And anything else is geared around that. So any institution, any law, any institution, anything that tries to disrupt that model is dead. They must kill it.
Okay. All right. No deal.
Just to chip in from what he just said, he brought up the settler issue. And let's go into that. Because you see, next week we are meant to mark Madaraka Day.
Yes.
All right? And I've had an issue with the celebration. Because for me, I take a back seat when we want to celebrate Madaraka Day or self-rule. Because according to me, there's nothing to celebrate. Years after independence, the revolution happened, but the oppressor lost nothing. They still own the land, they own the economy, control our politics, control our movement, courtesy of the new imperialists they put. And those are the leaders that rose to higher office and forgot the real reason for revolution. Because when you ask yourself, years after independence, the 3 diseases that faced us still face us today. That is ignorance, poverty, and diseases. And we are marking a celebration where years after independence, those who came before us and fought for independence, we're asking ourselves, what did Dedan Kimathi die for? What did Koitalea Rapsamoi die for? What did Mekatililo Menza die for? And the rest. Because at the end of the day, what they fought for, among other things, was land. Years later, we still have squatters. And we're talking about squatters. And we're talking about independence and self-rule. You see, there's no independence without economic power, political power, employment, without the land. So at the end of the day, as people want us to mark a celebration, we're marking a celebration where there's nothing to celebrate. As Morgan Heritage would say, there's nothing to smile about. Because the people are still poor, their lives are hard, and COVID has only highlighted the state of the nation, the real state of the nation. Because you see, we're always told the state of nation is strong, is bold, the economy is growing, but it never clearly shows it's growing in the wrong direction because the people are still poor, are still suffering, and are still oppressed. So at the end of the day, we need to have an honest conversation. Leaders have risen to high office, most of them, but there's nothing to write home about the independence that we took. Because at the end of the day, we are still colonized, but now the imperialist is more or less your brother because he's dark-skinned like you. You realize? And as he talks about the settler, it's not by coincidence. Because you see, anything that is there to protect the people should be checked. And that is why you see the 2010 Constitution, the ones who drafted it, they thought about the people more than the leaders. And for some leaders, they feel like this Constitution is against them. And so they will want to find a way how they can manipulate it. Believe you me, the moment we start making shoddy amendments here and there, that is what will happen to the Constitution, like what happened to the Independence Constitution. It brought about several amendments, but at the end of it all, it was just like any other storybook, a river between or anything. You realize? So at the end of the day, we need the Constitution as it was drafted. The drafters were smart enough to protect it. You know, it protects itself. It can protect itself as well. And that is why you see people were shocked by the judgment. Some of us were aware because what happened as per the BBI, for example, the questions some of us were asking, like public participation. You know, you cannot say you went to the people, told someone, sign here, then this is the book, go and read. It's like me calling you for an exam. You do the exam, then I give you the notes. That things are done haphazardly or in an upside down manner. That is one of the issues. And then if, for example, this thing is meant for the people themselves know nothing about it, you're being told this thing has something for everybody. You see the Constitution as it is, it's for everyone. There is nothing you can pick and leave for me and him. But you're being told this other document that is coming, there's something for you. That clearly speaks that it is not for everybody else. You realize? And that is what, we talk about unity. And I keep saying this, unity and it all isn't about the Constitution, because the Constitution is expressed on that. The problem we have in Kenya, for example, like tribalism, the problem we have in Kenya is not with the people. Because Otieno, Kamau, Cherono, all of them on a day-to-day basis are okay. They'll do business, they'll have fun, they'll intermarry. But upon election, someone will come with a V8, open their sunroof, take a microphone and remind you, oh, you are Luya, you are Luo, you are Kikuyu. And that is the problem. It's never the people. Because the people, you see this issue about divide them into tribes is something they got from the colonial master. Divide, then rule them. And that is very sad, because at the end of the day, if you're a leader, for example, like the way I told you, I want to become a member of parliament. If I'm a member of parliament, when I'm distributing bursary forms, there is no way I look for a particular community, because when you pass laws in parliament, for example, or anywhere else, that law affects everybody else. It's like those who voted for Jubilee and those who didn't vote for Jubilee. Let me give you a story. Those who voted for Jubilee.
Those who voted are now outside.
You see,
did not inside.
Let me tell you something. You see, people say,
the Lord is good.
People say, people say that it's always a community in power. That's a lie. It's a person with their cronies. It just so happens that one or two people from the same community will get a job somewhere, courtesy of knowing somebody. But at the end of the day, when a bill is passed in parliament, let's say a tax law is passed in parliament, there's no day it will come, oh, by the this is a Kikuyu, it jumps, it goes to a Luo. This is a Kalenjin, it jumps, it goes to a Luya. It affects everyone across the board. So we have learned hard lessons for those who voted for Jubilee as a birthday gift, and those who didn't vote for them but are now completing the journey. We have to rise to the occasion and focus on how Kenya moves forward, because we keep lamenting and talking about what has happened before, but we are not talking about the solution going forward. And for me, the solution is really not about a document or amending the Constitution. The solution majorly is in the leadership, because there is no way you'll amend the hardware when your software as a person is rotten. You realize?
Yes.
And that is why we keep saying, for people to change, then the leadership also needs to change. Because for tribalism to end, it's to end from the leadership. Because most of these leaders are ones who believe in tribal cocoons. Right now we are seeing the speaker wants to go and become a spokesperson for his community.
He has finished the cleansing ceremony.
You see, years after independence, and next week you want to celebrate independence, but you're still focused on on being kingpins in certain regions. And that's a sad reality. Because how can one person be a spokesperson? So that means everybody else will listen. And that is how people fail. Because you're being told, this is the channel. Then when you vote that way, when you start suffering the consequences, you go on Twitter and you go on Facebook and you're ranting and you come to Bitok's channel, you're telling Bitok, mtu amalize aende. But you have to realize that you have the power. You see, you have the power. The power is with the people. But the people forget that they have the power. And so I keep saying that the most, we talk about revolution, we talk about third liberation, but the most effective liberation is that of the mind. The more you realize what is good for you is when we'll move forward. Because liberation is in everybody. It just takes that you have to be put in a certain corner to feel enough is enough and you rise to the occasion. Kenyans talk about a revolution. The best day for revolution, the best day for revolution was that day on Thika Road. But they slept on the cars and hooted until morning and they were tweeting.
They were tweeting in the traffic, in the whatever.
That was the biggest test. But it failed. So the most important and effective liberation is that of the mind. The moment you liberate your mind from things, from tribal cocoons, from thinking from a religious perspective, and you think as a Kenyan, you think as a visionary person, as a patriotic person, we will move forward. And that is when we will be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. Because the elections we have in Kenya, like the by-elections, the reason why we are seeing the melee is simply because it was never about the people, the by-elections that happened. It is more or less about the big boys, the party leaders asserting power, and some people trying to form a national outlook, or rather others are trying to put their foot on the ground. It's never about the people. That is sad reality. So the people have to make it about themselves. And how do you do that? By making sure the person who goes into office is your representative. Because if you elect someone because of a packet of flour, you can't eat that packet of flour for 5 years. And you leave somebody who is there, who wanted to serve you. That's a sad reality. You are going to suffer. So we need to move away from this issue of state capture. And how do you do that? The people have to also wake up and move with us. Because at the end of the day, he talked about how independent institutions, electoral fund, he talked about judiciary fund, and report to parliament. Parliament itself is dead. And that is courtesy of the leaders we have there. People go into this office without knowing the reason why they're in parliament. We have the finance bill that is being discussed by people right now. When you see a member of parliament, ask him, where were you when this thing of 16% on LPG where were you when this discussion was happening? You see, because ulikuwa wapi? Because I see them the other day, they were saying, I represent the people, or my people from so and so, we vote yes. Which people? Who did you consult? You see, when these laws have been passed, so many laws have been passed in Kenya that are affecting the Kenyan people. When you see a member of parliament anywhere, muulize, ulikuwa wapi? Because at the end of the day, they never even go to the house. They just show up to say, I vote yes, I vote no. That is a sad reality. Because people forget, a member of parliament, your core duty is legislation. Forget these other things about welfare and whatnot. Legislation is the core duty and checks on the executive. But sadly, they have been captured. And now they're captured because of selfish interests. And that is why we keep saying there's a difference between a politician and a leader. A politician is one who does things with selfish interests. A leader is a selfless, patriotic, and visionary person who is there to serve the interests of the people. So we need to weigh who we take into office.
Okay, all right. Even I don't know, it looks like you have some thoughts, please.
Now, you see, I want to keep moving this conversation around. This is what
Please switch on the mic.
CETRA outpost, because it has something very interesting about it. You know, in a CETRA outpost, citizens are treated as tenants.
Okay.
If you look at how Kenyans are treated in this country, they are actually treated as tenants.
Wapangaji.
Yes. And the constitution, and this is where now the fight between the CETRA outpost owners and the Kenyans have a conflict, and why the CETRA outpost owners want to change the constitution. It is because of this simple. And I want you as listeners everywhere they are, and ourselves, if you take a pen and just make a sketch of a house, right? Just a sketch of a house. On the floor, like this room we are in, on the floor is the sovereignty of people. The walls are the supremacy of the constitution. The roof is our Bill of Rights. The challenge the central outpost owners have is with the sovereignty of the people. The Constitutional Court decision reasserted and reaffirmed the sovereignty of the people. That is why the central outpost owners are so mad with judges, with judiciary. Why? Because the judges and the judiciary reasserted what the central outpost wanted to oust. That's the first point. Okay. The second thing is this. The supremacy of constitutions was reaffirmed. The constitution they wanted to destroy. Right? Thirdly is this. The constitution reaffirmed and reasserted the basic fundamental rights of citizens. And one of that is the sovereignty of people. The court used the word, the constitutive sovereign power of people. That's very important. And that's why Kenyans must understand and must address themselves not as tenants,
Yes.
but as the real owners of this country.
Okay.
And that's why when the ruling came out, Kenyans were extremely happy. They were excited. In fact, a friend of mine was saying, for the first time since Corona began, I have never at any one time tasted a beer. But on that day, I went and bought a whole bottle of wine. Just to say thank you for what that explains to you that reassertment of the sovereignty power of people, what it means. Why is this constitution so problematic to the central outpost owners? For 5 reasons. This constitution has the central outpost owners or the administrative control have a problem with this constitution for 5 core reasons. 1, the constitution removed power from the central outpost owners and give it to people. So that's the first question, the issue. The question about sovereignty of the people. Secondly, the central outpost owners has a problem with the supremacy of the constitution. They cannot do what they want to do. Why? Because every time they try to do it, NOORDEAN will be in court to assert you can't do it because the constitution demands you must do it this way.
Yes.
So they have a very big problem with that. They want, the constitution has made it inconvenient for them to operate with impunity and operate the way they want. That thing, the constitution created the principle of equal society, equitable development, and shared prosperity. There is no way be talk. The central outpost owners want you to be part and parcel of the sharing of prosperity and wealth. But
So you understand?
this constitution created an equal society, an equitable development, and it created a situation where all of us must share the prosperity. That's the third problem they have with the constitution. The fourth one they have with the constitution is this. It asserted the human dignity. That wewe ni mtu na una utu. So how can that be?
Yeah.
You know, they ask, so they ask, who is Bitok anyway? Sasa anakuja kusema nini? So the constitution asserted that human dignity of Kenyans. Right? Utu na mtu na utu. He asserted that. Finally, this constitution gave us power. It gave us the decision to make decisions at our local level on the things that affect us. When you talked about devolution of power and resources. So the first thing they must do right now as you're talking, for the last 4 months, they have not given money to the counties. Why? Because the counties became a disruptor of the economic system they have. Right? So that aspect of devolution of power and the resources to them is ideal. So you must destroy it. You must kill it. Remember this. Jomo Kenyatta amended the constitution 13 times. And the reason why he did that, it is to consolidate this central outpost. And the first thing he did was to dismantle regional governments. Was to dismantle judicial independence. Was to kill Senate. I saw senators voting and I told them, you are digging your own grave. You don't learn from history. So he consolidated that power and made sure that central outpost arrangement and its confines must remain within that structure. When Moi came, alisema fuata nyayo. Ama sisi tunasema. What that fuata nyayo did? Moi added more. In fact, Moi went one step further. He killed multi-party in this country and freedom of self-expression. He killed our political rights. Right? With who? He was helped by part of the contingent of the central output owners. You get my point?
Yes.
So once you understand that context, you start to understand the relationship between why and what BBI is all about. BBI was about rejuvenating, reengineering, resetting the central outpost and its owners, and then subsequently transfer power to the next administrator or a controller of the central outpost. That's essentially the BBI. BBI had nothing else for that. It had nothing else for Wajiko.
Transferring us to the next landlord.
That was the end of the BBI. It was the beginning and the end. That's why the BBI and the Constitutional Amendment. That explains the conflict between the BBI and the Constitution and the people of Kenya. People of Kenya and their Constitution are on one hand. That's why they were jubilant about the verdict of the court, because the court was asserting their constitution, their sovereign power. You need to see it from that context, so that we don't discuss the ruling in outside the. We need to give it a certain context so that Kenyans can relate on their day-to-day life. Those people who are 85% who form the employment system in this country, they are the people who feed this central outposts. Unajua wakati mkoroni alikuwa, you know what they used to do? And I don't want to give an illustration, but you understand what I mean. You know what they used to do is this. They used to be the land owners, but then they knew Bitok can be a problem. And NOORDEAN can be a problem. So and so can be a problem. So what they did is to make sure you own a piece of land. Not just a small one. They also allow you to keep cows, grow some of the crops they are growing, just like them. Then they will make sure within the neighborhoods they have built residential reserves for workers. These workers, you as Bitok and NOORDEAN, you be the supervisors of my land and my wealth generation, right? But at the same time, you must be the enforcers of mobilizing the labor to come and work for me. But at the same time, I'll be allowing you a little. Some of these people can work in your small shamba. You get me? Then to make it even worse, these people, we must make sure that every house pays a small tax. That's why they had hard tax. You get it? So that by the end of the day, once something happens, the settlers have a comfortable life, managed, organized, land, and overseen and protected by Bitok and NOORDEAN. Why? You are the buffer from the masses.
Okay.
You get it? So if you look at that context, you get somebody has a very big farm, then decides, let's give these small scale people around my farm, but I'm the one with the processing hub. So you'll be getting your produce, munaleta kwangu, mimi ndiye nafanya processing, packing, and selling. But tunakupatia pe. So if you look at the economy from that point, what has been going on is this. The Constitution 2010 dismantled that arrangement. Today, people in Wasigishu, people in Nyandarua, people in Wajir are talking about their interests. You came to the table. You have started disrupting the order. So they don't want it. They want to remain that. They want to keep moving.
They want to preserve the status.
So essentially, and for them to succeed in that project, they created BBI as spoils, what you call the spoils politics. Spoils politics is where you create positions. So you represent your people here. The spoils interest. So spoils interest politics. It is how you preserve the the central outpost system of economics and politics in this country.
Okay. Oh, that's very interesting. That's quite deep and enlightening coming from you. All right. So anyway, before let's digress a bit. So yesterday, Uhuru Kenyatta was launching the Lamu port. Which is a great milestone. Ongera sana rais, because at least hata kama watu wanakulanga pesa, at least kulikuwa na kitu tutaonyesha watoto. Kwa naambia kulikuwa na kitu inaitwa Lamu port ama kulikuwa na Kalami, at least walambi yote. At least our thieves have some decorum somehow. In other countries they eat everything. So at least hapo wanatuachanga hata kama lami ni one layer, at least we see it for a few days before the port was coming. So anyway, there's someone who tried to approach the presidential dais. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, I saw.
What do you expect of that? Do you know it? Did you see it?
Yes, I saw.
Okay.
I think this.
What do you think that guy was trying to do?
This is the same area where the former prime minister was caned the other time. You know, watu walamu wako na maneno. I think this.
Wewe Kilifi. Mwenye alituanga Raila alikuwa Kilifi. Si ndio?
Yeah. But you see, nobody knows what he really wanted to do in essence.
But I could see the president was really scared.
He's scared. He even
moved aside from the dais. Yes.
Approaching the president like that is also dangerous for yourself, because you saw how the aide was ready to deal with him.
Yeah.
You see, they say a hungry man is an angry man. So Kenyans have gotten to a point where they've lost. So most people have lost hope in almost everything in life, because things are not working out. Hard economic times. That's not an excuse for what happened yesterday, just to be clear. Times are hard. You see, some people have even lost jobs. They've relocated from Nairobi, gone back home. Because you see, you can't live in Nairobi in someone's house and the landlord expects rent. Yeah, tambui COVID, hiyo ni wewe. So at the end of the day, I think the nation is at a very bad place. And our leaders need to wake up to the realization that they're not serving the best interest of the people. Because as a nation, it's so sad when you look globally. People are talking about vaccines and whatnot. Us as Kenyans, we want to borrow from DR Congo. Hey, man, that's even sad. You know, you're borrowing vaccines from Congo. We're becoming a laughing stock in Africa. You know, it's sad. And when you look at other countries are talking about how they are going to have hubs to make vaccines, we are still talking about BBI. We are talking about 2022 elections. It's a sad reality that our politics have, politics is in everything, in marriage, at work. It's like it's the daily dose in Kenya. And we win seats to campaign for the next seat, not to work. So when you campaign the manifesto, once you're done, once you win the election, the manifesto is used for the next general election. You don't even implement it. So we need to change the way things are done in Kenya, moving forward. And we congratulate the milestone that is the Lamu port. That is the first bath. There's supposed to be 3. They say the others are at 85% completion. If they complete them, they will be in order. Because, this thing was launched in 2012 by the Grand Coalition government. It's actually taken so much time, as you can see, between 2012 and since they came into office. I believe if we focused majorly on improving the livelihoods of the people, more than politics, that is the only way Kenya is going to grow. Because at the end of the day, the sad reality is that the people are secondary to the wants and needs of the people who get into office. That is why we've just had a historical class where the mantra is oppress them to use them, because the moment you liberate them economically,
they become a problem for you.
How will you use them? And that is why you see, this issue of middle class. Sometimes it's seen as a problem because they're the ones on Twitter, they're the ones making noise. So maybe try and make sure impoverish them so that you can be able to control them. A hungry man is easy to control than somebody who has his own ways of doing things. So we need to, I keep saying this, we need to raise the leadership and integrity threshold in Kenya. Okay. So that we can be able to move forward as a nation.
Well, two things. One is that first is that it's a great thing. I think Uhuru will go down in history as a person who invested more on infrastructure. I think that I think if you were to talk about legacy, okay, forget about whether they are done with highly inflated costs, because that's a factor. with, highly inflated cost, prices, and then of course they don't pay a lot of attention on quality of the kind of work done. But it's a great milestone for us. I think one of the things I've been trying to encourage people to have a discussion on is the emergence of what they are calling the Indo-Pacific region as the global center of trade. That stretches from our eastern border of Africa all the way to the South Pacific states. That's a massive area, bringing together the biggest economies in the world. And that's a massive investment. So this port and Port of Mombasa becomes very strategic for us as a country. And in fact, Kenyans need to start thinking very strategically around how they can become key players in this emerging Indo-Pacific new trade and economic cooperation that is coming up. On the question about the safety and security of the president, one is that it's always critical at all given moment to ensure that the president is safe. It's always critical. And one of the things people need to observe is that this region that extends all the way from Tana River, Lamu, Garissa, and has been one of the most unstable and very volatile and very risky area. Just a few days before even that port, you saw the military, removing these explosive devices and all that kind of stuff. So this is a very high security risk area. So that's the first thing you need to understand. So even when you look at the arrangement of the security that the president had, it was extra. There was an extra security around that. But also at the same time is that sometimes citizens tend to, if they see the president, they tend to walk to go and present a grievance. It's not the first case I've seen several cases where citizen just walks maybe with a piece of paper or just want to go and sometimes they just walk from the crowd and so normally those kind of incidences do happen, but of course the security people control them. There is incidents where sometimes the president can say, okay, let the person come or take that thing and let me see what it is. There are those kind of incidences, but always have a precaution. There is always that security precaution that is taken. The other thing is about this region. This is a region with a lot of grievances. Let's be honest with ourselves. It's because historical in nature, and it's a region that is equally neglected and marginalized. So you are dealing with the people who are very bitter from many angles. So an opportunity that presents itself, like that one, a presence of a president in itself, elicits so many interest in it. There are people who would want to confront him. There are people who would want to go and present a grievance and all that. The thing is also brings the question, does the president have open channels on how he engages communities directly? Because most of the time, as Noordeen has said, you elect people, but people always come and say, yes, I speak on behalf of the people. But when you ask them, which people are you talking about? So that in fact I was asking, I was just checking the if you read BBI and the 14 arid and semi-arid, what you call the ASEL counties, they were going to suffer massively. Actually, they were going to suffer more marginalized, and the marginalization was going to be now constitutionalized. But I saw all the 21 MPs from that region, apart from Duare, who came out very strongly against BBI, and he gave a whole list of issues why that must be resisted. The thing is, areas and regions that come from that area, these are people who have historically lived with a lot of marginalization. They're economically deprived. They actually don't believe they belong in Kenya. So that gives them an opportunity to present their grievances. Now, the problem is the mechanism in which the grievances being
like presented. What do you think happened to that guy thereafter?
Of course, that's taken care of by security. Then the other thing is...
taken care of.
The other thing about that is that...
You mean he was given lunch?
Maybe there are two things that happen, most likely, and I'm just speculating. One is that the guy is now at a certain police station, and of course facing quite a bit of not good things. That's one. Two is that most probably the president might have done a forum. Did that person have, he has his people. What was exactly the issue? The president must be brief what the issue was. Maybe if it's on an issue that maybe, can I have what the grievance was? Maybe in a one way or the other. And maybe by the end of the day, if it's on a genuine maybe a grievance that the guy wanted to present, then the president will say, that's okay, I have listened and all that, then he will find a way of following up on that issue. So that's what normally, most of those cases are handled basically. But the thing is this, we need to accept one thing. 75% of this country, which constitutes about those 14 counties, they range from Kilifi all the way to West Pokot.
Yeah.
They form 75% of this country, right? And the regions that are historically marginalized, the devolution has tried to open them up. But still, it's a drop in the ocean. We need to invest more. We need to put more, there's a very good infrastructure development going on. The road from, now they are building up that road from, all the way from connecting Garisen, all the from Garisen, Hora, all the way to Garissa. Then they're opening up that other one from Garissa to Wajir, Isiolo, then Marsabit to Madeira. Those are developments that are ongoing. They are very good. We need to open up that place. And I'll give you why some of these things are very important. And I also give you a very simple illustration. Marsabit is about 67,000 square kilometers. All right?
67,000 square kilometers.
Yes.
Okay.
Marsabit. 16,000 square kilometers of Marsabit receives an annual rainfall of more than 1,000, which means you can do a rain-fed agriculture massively, right? When we talk about 16,000 square kilometers, it is bigger than the 5 counties that formed formerly Central Province, because that region is only 12,000 square kilometers. You can take the 5 counties and take them to the 16,000 and still have 4,000 square kilometers left. So which means we can develop these regions extremely well. When the former governor of Wajir, Abdrahi, you saw how he was able to change the agriculture production. Where for the first time people started seeing agriculture blossoming, however, even if a small scale, but it was a test case that we can actually exploit these regions, develop them, they become a hub. If you go to Tanariva is a major producer of mangoes, massive mango production, and many other products. So the thing here is this: how do we address these grievances? It is by not destroying what the Constitution 2010 has given us. It is to enhance it and implement it. Remember one thing I told you about the 5 things I told you. These people have a problem with the Constitution. Is the question about equal society, equitable development, and the shared prosperity. If one citizen doesn't feel sense of belonging to this country, then we are in trouble.
Yes.
And that's something we must do. And this is the point. Constitution 2010 is based, each chapter, the Constitution has 18 chapters and 256 articles. Out of those, each and every chapter of the Constitution of Kenya is underpinned by 4 principles. Principle number 1, inclusion. And I'll speak kidogo kuhusu that inclusion. These guys have been telling us BBI was about bringing what? Inclusion.
Inclusivity.
But if you read Article 130 of the Constitution says that every time the president is forming a national government, the national executive composition must reflect the diversity, the ethnic diversity of this country. So which other inclusion are you looking for? Other than creating what NOORDEAN was talking about, coming up with the kingpins, then you term that inclusion. No, that's not the inclusion the Constitution is talking about. The second principle the Constitution puts is the principle of participation. Right? Very important. Each and every chapter of the Constitution. The third principle is openness. In any decision-making process, where is the openness? And if you look at the court ruling, one of the things it emphasized was that principle of participation and the principle of openness. Transparency in terms of that. The final one is equality. The Constitution underpins equality. So the things the BBI is trying to sell to us are already deeply entrenched in the Constitution. So those communities, those regions that are out there, they need to enjoy their dignity. They need to enjoy their respect. They need to be recognized and inflated and be assimilated as part of this country. How can that be done? It is by full implementing 2010 Constitution because it has the basis and the foundations of that. The other thing that I think is also very important is this. And this is what I have always kept telling people. After multi-party, multi-party was fought through war. Is it?
Yes.
This Constitution, 2010, we also got it through very, very painful means. After those two, the next important thing in this country, the conversation we must have, and this is the conversation that we must have now, not tomorrow. It is the conversations around devolution and economic freedom. Yeah. That's the conversation we must have. The Constitution provides us the tools. The Constitutional Court affirmed those tools, right? So the Constitution, the Constitutional Court actually set us on the trajectory of the third liberation discourse. Yeah. And that discourse is going to be based on devolution and economic freedoms of people. People exercising their sovereignty, people exercising their power to be able to actually achieve their human potential, their economic progress, their freedoms, and they must be able to enjoy their liberations as people who are economically liberated. Because if you don't have that debate now of devolution and economic freedom, that is the core debate at the center of this country right now. It's not about creating spoils politics. It's not about awarding. How does making 5 people become inclusive? The most fundamental thing is how do we come up with the most important thing is our governance system based on a devolved system of governance makes our politics inclusive. That's one. 2 is that once we discuss the economic model that addresses our economic freedoms, then every single person, do you want to care who the next president is? If at your local level, the decisions affecting you, the services you want, right? The economics, your ability to enterprise, your economic to do business, your economic to prosper. Do you care?
No.
You don't care. So the issue here is how do we use this constitutional court ruling to engage in the third liberation discussion in this country, build around devolution and economic freedom? That for me is the conversation that this country must be having.
Okay, all right. Moving on quickly, the Supreme Court. We now have we have a new CJ who was gazetted yesterday. Is it yesterday or the other day?
The other day.
The other day, yes. And there are people who also have already have problems. Wanasema judges wengine wako wapi? Why they move the quick move and all that? Anyway, ongera Martha Koome. What do you make of that, NOORDEAN?
Well, first and foremost, let me congratulate her. You see, she's broken the glass ceiling. She's done something that wasn't expected. But in the same breath, there's this talk that now that she is CJ, Mwili should not be DCJ. That is really neither here nor there, because you can't say there's a problem because both of them are ladies. The president and deputy president are both men. So you can't have that as an argument. That's a weird argument, It's a pedestrian argument. So how she gravitates after, because on Monday is when the implements of power will be given to her, because today she's been sworn in. Now, from there, the first hurdle she has is the 40 judges. There were 41, one died. Now there are 40.
Yes.
How she handles that matter of 40 judges. She said she has a way of negotiation during her interview. So people are going to, that is the first order of business, because that is very critical. How do you handle that process that has stalled for a long time now? And then secondly, you see the judiciary has a transformative agenda. What she's going to bring into that agenda. Because moving forward, there is talk of interdependence and independence. You see, every arm of government is interdependent to the other, because they have to work together. You can't work alone. There's no you are going to move. That's why it's called an arm of government. Now, how she gravitates from, we've had Willy Mutunga, we've had Maraga, and now her. Now, you see, first and foremost, being the first lady, people will really look at her, how she handles the issues of independence of the judiciary, how she handles the 40 judges, and her legacy that she wants to leave behind moving forward. And I believe what we need, first and foremost, is a strong judiciary.
Okay.
A judiciary that is not afraid of making decisions that are backed with the law, following the law. That is what we want going forward. Because you see, there is this scenario where, courtesy of the BBI, like they are trying to have that ombudsman. There's this issue where the people feel like the judiciary is after the government. Or those in government, they feel like they are at war with the judiciary. You see, the moment Kenyans are in a situation where the government and judiciary are in bed together, that is when Kenyans have lost it. Because once a politician steals your land and the judiciary and the government are together, you'll never get back that land. So what needs to happen is interdependence and and separation of powers. And that is what we need. Because separation of powers, we have it, yes, but we just have it in the Constitution. Implementation is different. That is why you see our parliament is there, but it is panel beaten to always work with the judiciary, with the executive, sorry. And that is courtesy of, because you see all these political parties are owned by individuals. They're not institutions. And that is why you see people say party lines, party position, respect the party leader. So who's respecting the Kenyan? The Kenyan that elected you, how you respecting me? How you advocating for my issues? When you always think about your party position and your party leader, who will think about me? You realize?
Yes.
So going forward, I pray that we have a judiciary that is strong and that is there to protect and preserve the Constitution. Because the moment our Constitution is preserved, Kenya will move forward. Because that is what needs to put checks and balances. Because where there's a problem, you will run to court. You know what happened in 2007 was courtesy of people who had no faith in the courts. But now people are starting to have a feeling where we can believe in the court system. I can actually go to court and get a favorable judgment. So let me go and try my luck. So that is what we need to enhance, where people actually have faith in the judicial system, so that we can be able to solve these issues that arise from time to time and move away from this this notion of trying to weaken the judiciary. You can't weaken the judiciary. The moment you do that, there's no country. It will be a lawless state. Because, you know, first and foremost, Kenya has too many laws. We don't have deficiency in law. We have too many laws, but observance of the law is the problem. And that is courtesy of individuals. It's not about the law, because if it is law, we have so many laws. That is why you see people talking about, the Constitution is saying that IBC can have 3 commissioners, but there's an act in Parliament which says 5. You see, so there are laws, but observance of the law is the problem in Kenya, and we need to check that. And I believe, you see, there are things called contempt of court. You realize there are stringent measures that can be they can actually be put to those who don't observe court orders and whatnot. So if we can have examples of people, then the country will move forward. It's just like the by-elections. We've had instances of intimidation, of violence. It doesn't make sense on the material day of the by-election. We have rungus in a truck somewhere and clubs and people moving around. You see, we have the Elections Offences Act. If people are brought to book or are accounted for their actions, then we move forward. Because our law is there, but implementation is the problem. The moment we implement the law in Kenya, believe you me, things will move forward. Because the moment we implement the law in Kenya, things like corruption will have to deal with them. You realize? Things like this election violence and things like observers of court orders. The moment we implement the law, that is the only way Kenya will, because we can't be, we know a stateless jungle, a stateless country is a jungle where it's a way for the fittest. So the weak will always perish and the strong will always have their way. And that is not what we want. So moving forward, I believe and I actually pray that Martha Koome will try and make the judiciary stronger. And you see, there are issues where some people maybe feel like she might be a project that is so. It is sad to actually put that on someone who's not even sat on the seat. Realize. So let us give her the benefit of the doubt. Okay. And you know, she has she has a huge task. Okay. Because what she does, there are young girls who are looking up to her, and people will gauge her. The sad reality is that we put the gender card everywhere. For me, I really don't care about gender. I care about the substance, and that is why I've just said it doesn't matter whether the CJ and DCJ are from the same gender. The substance and the observance of the rule of law is what really matters.
Okay. All right.
Great. I think for me,
CJ.
first is to congratulate Judge Kome. I think somebody I know for many years. You haven't been in civil society for quite some long. Secondary is that I think for me is to comment. My message is very simple. You are holding a constitutional office. You are reading one of the core arms of the state, not government. Constitution is very specific. It's a core arm, core equal. Actually, the word is core equal arm of a state, judiciary. I think how she steers this is going to be very, very critical. It's good that we have now, as you're speaking, we have significantly transited from Judge Maraga to now Judge Kome. I think Mwilu did quite some well in that transitional period. It was very turbulent, even her own facing challenges. But I think for me, there are three things that Kome has to have to work very hard on. One is that she need to win over Kenyans. That one, I must tell you.
Yeah.
She need to win over the trust, confidence, and legitimacy of Kenyans. That's the first thing she must do. I think for me, that's critical. Because without that, even the support she needs to steer judiciary, she will not have it. Mark you, the judicial authority comes from the people. Yeah. So she need to win the trust, the confidence, and legitimacy from the Kenyan people. That's one. Two is that Judge Kome as the CJ must be able to make judiciary become more bold as the bastion of defending the constitution and the rule of law in this country. Okay. I think it's going to be a very big challenge for her. And I think she must make sure that that is done. In fact, Bitoka will tell you this. This ruling by the Constitutional Court has become one of the most discussed law globally as we're speaking. I am finding it very, very funny that the Kenyan universities and legal and all that are not actually engaging in robust discussions the way the outside universities. I have seen so many seminars, all of them being convened to discuss this ruling. So I think for me, ability of sustaining the momentum of judiciary as the bastion of defending the constitution and the rule of law is going to be a big thing. The third thing for me is expanding access to judicial services to people. Judiciary has been facing a lot of challenge in terms of finances to expand access of courts to people. By now, I was expecting that at least every sub-county in this country should at least have a magistrate court in this country. So how we are going to expand access to judicial services to people and access to legal services in this country is going to be very, very important. Yeah. Because by the end of the day, that becomes the key thing. How can people in each and every part of this country feel that they can access the courts, they get the court services, they are able to access legal services in this country? I think that's going to be something that's going to be very, very important. And that can only happen when she does the fourth thing. That is, she must be ready to bite the bullet at the hurdle, the various accusations raised on judiciary, particularly question about corruption in judicial system. That one we must be candid with her. She must be able to set up what you call a judicial accountability mechanism where citizens are able to engage judiciary in a more open and transparent manner so that citizens have an accountability mechanism. They can be able to deal with the judicial accountability. That for me is very, very important because by the end of the day, citizens will build trust and confidence in judiciary if they have a very effective mechanism of holding judges and judiciary to account. That's very, very important. So mother should be able to set up a judicial accountability mechanism for the people of Kenya to hold judges and the magistrates and the judiciary as a whole as an institution accountable to the people of Kenya. It is not accountable to the executive. It's not accountable to the parliament. It is accountable to the people of Kenya because judicial authority is derived from the people of Kenya. Finally, it is important for Mother Kome to enforce the independent funding of judiciary. Because by the end of the day, if the courts are going to expand, if legal services are going to be affordable, look at where we are now. If you look at the Court of Appeal, right now, it doesn't have judges. Right? So we need more judges, we need more magistrates, we need more technical people to support our judicial system. So Mother need to fight for bigger chunk of funding of judiciary. And they must make sure that the accountability of those funds is also done to the people of Kenya, so that Kenyans gain confidence that you're not just asking for the money for the sake of asking for the money, but you are asking money to provide judicial services and legal services to the people of Kenya. That for me is very, very important. And then, of course, the whole question about the relationship between the executive, parliament, independent offices, and independent commissions vis-a-vis judiciary. I think the Constitution has set the rules. The Constitution has a very clear rules that each arm of the state is independent and distinct. However, they should work in cooperation and consultation. Cooperation and consultation does not mean usurping or trying to manipulate or trying to twist each other. No, it is to consult and then be able to make a decision that takes care of the interests of the Kenyan people. Because all these arms of the state executive drive their mandate from the people. So the Constitution provides the rules. Each one of you are distinct and independent, and you must operate that way. But at the same time, the Constitution also provides a room for consultation and cooperation. And in fact, even when you look at the Constitution, how it defines even the relationship between the county government and national government, it says the rules. So the rules are very clear. So it is not where the president keeps calling the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice, she has to put her foot down and protect judiciary, the independence of judiciary, judges, and magistrates. And I can tell you this. If she mobilizes the trust, the confidence, and legitimacy from Kenyans, she will actually work with them in a more holistic way. And she must be open. She must have this open door policy so that people can engage her. She can engage them. And I must say this. I've been very, very impressed with the judges who are resident. They are called what? The heads of regional courts. They have a very open policy with the Kenyans. They have formed courts users committees. In fact, they are very open. They engage communities at the local level. For me, we need to accelerate that so that we make it, we normalize it and give it more impetus so that Kenyans can now understand the courts more and all that. We need to demystify judiciary basically and make it more Kenyan. The way the Constitution put it, let's operationalize it that way and make it very effective. Otherwise, I wish her well. Definitely. We would make sure that the support she needs, and I can assure her this, we will subject her to a rigorous public scrutiny in her work.
There's something, James Wonder says BBI appeal may skip the High Court and add straight the Supreme Court. What do you guys think?
No, the Supreme Court rules are very clear. The BBI can only go to Supreme Court on extraordinary circumstances. That's the actual statement. And for the BBI to go there, it must have, the court has to be certified that there is those extraordinary circumstances for it to be there. So BBI to go there is a whole, and in fact that's also part of the challenge. The reason why NOORDEAN, we are talking about the issue about Judge Kome being, quote unquote, which is a very bad thing at this moment in time, being seen is because her process of clearance was really speedy and expeditious. So people started saying, you see, now she's being cleared so that she can go and panel the Court of Appeal judges who hear this and that. People forget one thing. The kind of ruling by the Constitutional Court is a ruling that even judicially, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, and any other judge will approach it with a very, very cautious mind.
Yes.
A very open and very cautious mind. It's not just any other ruling. I think people have to. I think this thing hasn't stuck to people the way has not struck the people. The kind of thunder, this was lightning that caused a sound that shook the entire system. So this ruling is not something that people should take it lightly. I think even a judge who can be empaneled to hear the Court of Appeal will be somebody who. That judge will have an extra thought about the kind of, when we filed the integrity case, we once the judges ruled, we said, we have done our part. We gave the judiciary and the Kenyans a hot bowl of uji to take. They have chosen, other than taking it, wameamua kuimwaga chini. So it is so anybody who will touch the appeal, and even whether it's Court of Appeal or Supreme Court, whoever will touch this ruling, that people will be very, very cautious in terms of the decisions they are going to make, basically. So that's very, very important. There's one aspect, sorry, before I let go, there's an aspect about gender. And this is something that I think we tend many times to misrepresent. When the Supreme Court was first constituted, I was among the people who went to court and challenged the composition of the first Supreme Court. We said it did not meet the gender threshold. Okay. Gender does not mean that actually we should have, even in that court of Supreme Court of 7 judges, even if you have 4 or 5 women, as long as the other of either gender doesn't matter. The most important thing is what you have just said. Yes, we need to see the representation of all genders and other groups in that court. But one thing is fundamental: the jurisprudent content and the substance coming out of that court. I can tell you this for free. That court has not helped this country. I must be very honest with you. In fact, when you look at the jurisprudence that coming out from the Constitution and the Human Rights Division of the High Court and the jurisprudence coming from the Supreme Court, Supreme Court is really wanting. And it has to do a lot of work around itself, basically. So it's also another challenge. How does Mother now becoming the president of the Supreme Court? Yeah. How does she navigate that deficit of lack of substantive jurisprudence from the Supreme Court? How does she navigate that? And how does he help to re-engineer that court and make it more effective and deliver to Kenyans, basically?
Okay. NOORDEAN.
Yeah.
You have any comments on that?
You know, like I just said, you see the Supreme Court of Kenya has issues. There are allegations of corruption. And then matters they handle, they decide on the same matter in a different manner. It comes to in a certain form, they decide a different way. So their jurisprudence is a bit shaky. You see, the Constitutional Court in South Africa should be the benchmark. That should be where they want to be. Because
or Indian Supreme Court.
Or Indian Supreme Court, or the UK one, or the US one. Because you see, for example, now, as we are saying, they would want to skip. Okay, nothing stops them. Section 17, they can go to the Supreme Court. Okay, if the BBI proponents want to go to the Supreme Court, now you see that now Kenyans will look at that thing with a third eye, because if it goes there and succeeds, because you see, what you just need to do is convince 4 judges there. All right. So if they are able to, and I doubt they can be, I doubt it will be hard for them to convince 4 judges if that is what is the plan. But you see now they'll lose the credibility. Okay. Because now anybody can say we want this thing disbanded, because they are more or less and now they're trying to help the government achieve its end or its means. You realize. So at the end of the day, like I just said, they are benchmark for our Supreme Court. They should try and emulate the Constitutional Court in South Africa, the Supreme Court of India, the one from the States, and the one from the UK. Because at the end of the day, we have allegations of corruption. One was even proved, you realize? And there are several that people are talking about, and the jurisprudence is a bit shaky. So first and foremost, they need to get credibility. Because your first duty as becoming, let's say, CJ for Martha Koome, and BBI is brought to you, and you bundle it in a shambolic manner, you lose credibility from day one. Okay. So I'm sure they will, if it is taken to them, they will deal with it keenly. Because you see the pronouncements from the High Court. Your phone's in airplane mode. So the pronouncements from the High Court, you just can't wake up one day and change all of them just like that. It is hard, because the bench knew what they were doing in making those pronouncements. So it's not something easy. It's not 1 or 2. There are several. So I urge them to proceed with caution, because the credibility of that court will be at stake. And if we lose credibility of the Supreme Court, then the credibility of the judiciary is gone. You realize?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. The fight back is on with the BBI, and the fight back is led by Otienda Amolo and James Orengo, who had constitutional issues with BBI. Quite interesting. So it's a 5-bench of lawyers who are going to tackle and get back judiciary, and being led by Otienda Amolo, and James Orengo, who had a problem with the document in Parliament. What do you expect is going to happen in the courts as BBI fights back?
I think, as I said from the word go, BBI had its own mission and objective. And I think that the owners of, I have said this and I want to say it, and I always want, when I say something, it's always good to be put on record. Raila is an invited guest to BBI. Raila was invited to help disrupt to help stop. How can I say it? The analogy I gave about the buffers. Raila was being brought in to help, not to become an insider. No, Raila is not being invited to BBI as to become a stakeholder. No, he is, or as to become an owner in the central outpost. No, or an administrator. Or no. It is to help achieve that transfer of power from one controller or administrator of the central outpost to the next, but not him.
Yeah.
I think Raila need to understand that very well. So, any engagement around BBI, he must know that in himself, that he is a nebula, but not. He will only benefit to the best of being part of the spoils, but not the driver. That the owners of the central outpost cannot allow him. They don't brief him. They don't trust him. He's not part of them.
Raila is not part of the
No, he is a nebula. He's a facilitator. So, and the thing about Raila is this. Raila has foot soldiers with the capacity and the capability to assist the central outpost owners and the controllers to achieve the objective. Once they are done with that, that's it. And I want to tell you this. Even if they bring judges, and I repeat, judges will be extremely cautious when they are handling the question about the Constitutional Court BBI judgment. So you can bring all the ammunitions and all that, but by the end of the day, the question is, will be left to judiciary. Did you stand up for the sovereignty of people? Did you stand up for the Constitution? Did you stand up for the rule of law? That will be the question. In fact, this might end up becoming the referendum on judiciary post 2010 Constitution. This decision, because if you look at the overwhelming support the ruling got from Kenyans, it means Kenyans have a lot of keen interest in the next move of BBI and the next move on that ruling. This is it. And what I'm finding it very strange is this, and this is what, when somebody asked me yesterday, what do I think Uhuru should have done? I would have said this. I have only 15 months remaining. Is it even 15? Is that
14? I think 14.
13.
13.
Yeah. So, my friends, the court has issued its verdict on BBI. I don't agree with it, but I respect it. Moving forward, it is for Kenyans to decide whether they were made the Constitution or not. Moving forward, I have 3 things to do. First is make sure that I prepare the roadmap for a credible, independent, and free 2022 general election. So that is free, it's credible, it gives Kenyans the outcome they want. Whoever wins, whether you are governor, you are president, we will work together as people and move the country forward. Secondly, I will start putting together the mechanisms of addressing economic recovery and addressing the job losses, the livelihoods, and survival of we as Kenyans. It is true we are at that stage where you must address that. Thirdly, which must have been the first priority, is that we must address the consequences of health crisis brought about by COVID.
Okay.
That's very important. If I was a president, that's what would be my way forward. You see, that way, he would have at least won back Kenyans. Okay. But when now he keeps persistent on BBI, already Kenyans have decided their fate. In fact, the moment the court pronounced itself, Kenyans made their fate on the BBI. Now, this is my hunch. they are going to adopt two-track strategy. One is to try to appeal, right? That's why they have to mobilize all the lawyers to do the appealing and all that. That might take long to them. So what they may want to do is to look at the BBI and ask themselves, which are the areas in the BBI that we can actually draft a constitutional amendment and take it to parliament without necessarily requiring a referendum.
So they'll push some amendments through parliament.
So this is my hash. This is my, so that you draft a laughter of constitutional amendment. Now it's part of the BBI, but you extract all the key constitutional amendment that don't require a referendum, and then some are, majority of the BBI issues are policy and legislative. You pick that, then you develop a package, a constitutional and legislative changes you want to make, but you use it through the parliament. So as you are pursuing the court road, you're also pursuing the parliamentary route in some of the changes that they may want. That is my hash. And I think that and they may want now to operate along those kind of changes and then figure out how to go. However, they must be aware of the character when they want even to approach parliament, because the court defined parliamentary change of constitution to be a constitutive power, which means it's almost the popular route is what you call the secondary constitutive power. Then the parliamentary is a constitutive one. But even areas of changes they may want to push through parliament, they must be arrive to the critical questions and the issues that the court address when you are coming to change the constitution. Because there are substantive issues and the framing the court put and the orders it gave around the changes you may want to put on a constitution. It's not something that they are going to just do like that. So for me right now, I am seeing them having those two-track approaches.
Okay. All right. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And I would be interesting to see Otiende Omolo and James Orengo arguing against their conscience. Arguing against their conscience.
You know, in law, they say everyone has a right to representation. That's why even those who are charged with murder, they have advocates. Because everyone has a right to represent. It's what you present in court that matters, you know. So at the end of the day, like you just said, you see, the one reality that the BBI faces is the time question. Time is not on their side. Okay. Because even if they were to pursue this, going to court courtesy of Otiende Omolo and Orengo, for any delimitation to happen, has to be 12 months to a general election. So if
12 months to a general election.
So if by August there's no referendum, that thing is done. Now, that's a challenge they face. How they'll maneuver that, only they know. But I'm not surprised to see the fact that Orengo and Otiende Omolo are there, because you see, I highly doubt they'll go the parliamentary route, because they are afraid they might use that and then somebody goes to court again. And you know, they also can't start this process again, go back civic education, because time is not there. One of the many names Raila Amolo Odinga has is Tinga and Bulldozer, because he bulldozes his way around things. And that is why you see Otiende Omolo and Orengo are there. They are trying to put tarmac. You see, BBI, they say it was a reggae song. But now, sadly, the beat producers ran away with the beat and the artist has the lyrics. So now the artist has the lyrics and cannot sing.
It's like when you're singing along, then they switch off the music.
They switch off the music.
In fact, somebody said that these guys did not just stop reggae. They did not switch off power for reggae. They actually moved the power cables from the main.
Sasa iko shida, and they are burning the midnight oil. They are trying to find a way around. We actually personally, I'm waiting to see their appeal. I'm waiting to see what they'll bring forward, because it will be interesting. And the good thing I like is that Kenyans are now informed. Kenyans want to take part in the decision-making process of their country, because now they feel like it is their country. And that is why they are taking the initiative and they want to know what is happening, which is good, because an informed nation is a prospering nation, which is very good. And the keenness that they are following the BBI is something to commend. So let us wait and see how things unfold.
Okay, haya tunafunga na bunge la mwenye nchi iko wazi. Bunge la mwenye nchi iko wazi, nambari ni 07798010 au 07988010 au 07798010. Kama kuna swali hapa unataka kuchangia kwa njia yote, please call in 07798010. Bunge iko wazi 07798010. Pole, naona kuna masimu nimemiss kidogo hapa, lakini unaweza piga simu 07798010 au 779-800-10. Bunge la mwenye nchi iko wazi 0779-800-10. Okay, unaweza changia pale 779-800-10. Okay, tanione kuna okay. Jambo, habari asubuhi.
Changia pale.
Hello sir.
Hey.
Mambo. Yes sir.
Poa sana.
Mambo harama.
Hey, niko poa sana.
Hey.
Today you have some very well-informed gentlemen at the studio.
I appreciate, bro.
Yeah, and I've listened. This is what I like. People who bring substance and educate and really inform our fellow citizens on what is going on and how to address the issues. I like the analogy of the settlers outpost. Aliita settlers outpost ama aliita nini outpost.
That's
a very that's a very interesting analogy, and I really loved it. The other gentleman also very good interruption. There's only one thing that I just wanted to comment on is the video about the president and the guy who tried to get access to the president. And for me, I'm just looking from the security perspective.
Okay.
To me, the AD camp, I give him 4 out of 10. Because your main function is to secure your principle. That is your main function. Whatever is happening over there is none of it. Your main function is secure your principle. The fact that he did not move to protect the president and shield the president. Because I've attended security briefings and security issues when the principal is in danger. The first step is to have motioned him to step back towards the curtains behind. And then you stand in front so that you are the barrier between the president or your principal and the danger that is presenting, and then the rest of the people on the floor can take care of it. So that, to me, that was where I was a little bit worried that huyo mjamaa anafaa kwenda training kidogo, because he saw it from us and he reacted, but he didn't react in the effective manner as a protectee of the principal. He should have done a protector of the principal, not protect. The president is the protectee. The protector should have done a better job. Other than that, Lamu, these people know Lamu and the coast region is a dangerous place. You don't uendi tu hivi bwana. Unaenda kama umefunga viatu. Unaenda kama umefunga viatu poa. Unaweza chomolewa anytime mbio. So but Bitok, again, they have touched very good, important issues about our court system, and Bitok, we have talked about this so many other times.
Yeah, sure.
We need to restore the faith in our judicial system. Sometimes they rule on some things, unaangalia unasema jameni, hata chairman wa nyumba 10 anaweza fanya kazi nzuri kuliko hao watu. You know, give us because when the constitutional court, the high court gave their ruling with information, yani ile hata wewe hata kama hukuenda shule unasikiza the way they were speaking, unasema yenyewe as we used to say kitambo, tunasema hao wameongea kama mtu 10. Yani you have spoken one person but you have spoken like 10 people. They gave something like you have no question. These people thought, they listened, and they gave a judgment that when you read it or when you listen to what they were saying, you are like, yes. Where have these people been? Where have this judiciary been all this time? Because we have seen so many times, unaona hii mambo ya anticipatory bond inakuja, sijui mtu anaenda hapa, mwingine ndio the process goes correctly, the governor is impeached, and then all of a sudden the court comes in and say, oh no, you cannot impeach him. Why are you taking the will of the people away from them when there is a process in place? Now, if the process is faulty, then you can rule on that. But if the process was clear, please, mambo ingine wachaneni nayo. And then finally, I just saw an article yesterday, and I think I posted on our diaspora group.
Yes.
the Council of Governors was complaining that the Wajir governor was treated unfairly by the Senate. He was accused of the same things like Waiguru, but Waiguru was let free and the Wajir governor was convicted. Essentially, I agree with them, but what they did not realize, or the Council of Governors did not realize by their statement, ni kwamba, they essentially agreed kwamba Waiguru was guilty.
Yeah.
So that's what they agreed.
Yes.
To me, you be careful what you say, because the question becomes, so you people know that she made a mistake and she was guilty of violation of what she was accused of, but she found a way to get away with it. So in other words, you are justifying and encouraging impunity, because Jameni, when you hear the people of Wajir complaining that this guy was not even running the county, the wife was giving instructions on what to be done.
Wow.
He doesn't have to be in office. It's that simple. And the process worked well. So coming back to our group, thank you, gentlemen. I wish you, I hope they will come back again. Karibuni to Taco. I don't think I've seen you guys before, but welcome to Taco. And,
you must have seen Noordean. Noordean is not new.
Oh yeah, Noordean, yes, Noordean is not new. So, but welcome, guys, and I really appreciate your conversation today. It was very interesting. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So it has been very good. Thank you.
Asante. Okay. Asante. All right, that is Nani from that is Rama from diaspora. Anyway, kama bado unataka kupiga simu, nambari iko wazi, line iko wazi 0779-800-010. Bunga la mwenyeji iko wazi 0779-800-010. Tukienda kumalizia shughuli ya leo, lakini kabla hiyo sijui kama na gazeti leo.
There's something that I think about the diaspora.
Tuko na nambari hapa kidogo. Okay, Jambo. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Gerard.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. Yeah, my name is Martin Warui from Kasarani.
Jambo, Martin Warui.
Salama sana, Gerard. I'm okay, I'm well. Say hi to the panelists there, NDUNG'U, WANAINA, and NOORDEAN. My first remark, I think it's in appreciation of, NDUNG'U, WANAINA. I would call, now that people are talking in the context of South Africa in regard to the constitutional court, in South Africa they have a post they call the public defender.
Yeah.
So I think I would call NDUNG'U, WANAINA one of the public defenders, that has been at this thing for a while, always fighting for public interest.
Rightfully so. Hata ako kwa linda katiba, analinda katiba. So it's defending the katiba.
Yeah. I just want to tell NDUNG'U and the people like him who have devoted their life, to causes of justice and equality and human rights that, even when you are called all those names, the evil society and whatever, the wananchi like us who watch and listen and appreciate what you do. So I would just, want to encourage you that always know that you are fighting for us.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like what NDUNG'U said. And when he was talking about the principles that underpin every chapter of the Constitution, and allow me to say this, Gerard, because you say I come from Mount Kenya and I am a Kikuyu. And, most of the time we are used to hearing that people that you share a heritage with, people that you share a name with, always talking in terms of what is good for our region, what is good for our people. And this is one of the problems that we have in this country. It is not common nowadays to find people who look at this country, and say what is in the best interest of the people of, Northeastern. Even to find people who acknowledge and appreciate that there has been marginalization in those counties that, NDUNG'U is talking about, you really find these people. You are always finding people who are self-centered, always looking at their region, their people. And it's very difficult for people to even appreciate that these people have had problems, I want to agree with him on one thing. That, those areas, these are areas with a lot of potential, huge potential for agriculture, for enterprise, and for all those other things. But we have to agree that these regions have been neglected for a long time, and there should be a lot of focus on them. And this is part of the reason why the Equalization Fund was, put in the Constitution. It has not been operationalized. Yeah. The issue of inclusivity, people feel included. And when I always feel bad when I see, a lot of Kikuyus in a cabinet, you have 5 ministers, a lot of permanent principal secretaries coming from one region. And I say, people might want to feel like this thing works for them because it is their people from there. But you know what it does? It creates a feeling of disenfranchisement, exclusion to other people. And find people hating you for no good reason, but they are hating you for the mistakes of the elite at the top, So I want the president I want to agree with NDUNG'U WANAINA. The long and short of this comment is that I want to agree with NDUNG'U WANAINA and many other people who are fighting for this constitution that there is nothing wrong with our constitution. We just need to implement this constitution. And those people that are charged with the responsibility of implementing this constitution, they should implement it feasibly and without having a lot of, personal interest taking, precedence. If you implement this constitution, all of us are going to be good to go. A lot of things are going to be solved. And I want to leave it there and wish everyone a good weekend.
Thank you so much, my brother. Have a very great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in the whole week. You've been contributing. We really appreciate your contribution. And we hope to have you soon as well. We'll be having a guest of the week every week. We want to have some of the people like you have been following on our conversation so that we can try and edify this nation together. Until Monday, on this show, have a great weekend, bro. Nasalimia watu wa Kasarani.
Kabisa.
Thank you. Haya, bunge la mwenyeji iko wazi kwa simu ya mwisho. Nimeona kuna jamaa mpiga simu ya mwisho. Tafadhali, kama ni wewe umepiga simu hapo, tafadhali rudisha simu yako ya mwisho alafu tuweze kufunga. Lakini meanwhile, if you have any comments.
Thanks for that. I think that's a very good compliment. I think we do this for public good because this is about public getting Kenya. I want to see Kenya where everyone enjoys this kind. There's something I've always told, and it's good Martin has talked about this.
Yes.
I from the county I come from Nyandarua. It's one of those counties who are deemed as part of the former central Kenya and well developed. But Nyandarua is one of the most integrated counties. It's a bucket production in terms of when you look at the county development product, called what? CDP. Nyandarua is among the top, I think, 5. So in terms of that, but at the same time, when you go there, the kind of problems people face there, even basic infrastructure, they don't have. But one thing I have always told people is this. If we are able to, for instance, make sure that we have opened up Marsabit, we have opened up Tana River, we have opened up West Pokot. West Pokot is doing exceptionally well in agriculture production. And I like the way
surprising.
It's doing exceptionally well. The governor there has done massive to open up the county for health, education. He's putting in a lot of that. What does that mean? It means expansion of growth of people. We increase productivity. In this country, we only talk about consumption. We don't talk about productivity. Yeah. If we are going to become a country that has a competitive edge anywhere in the world, one thing we must invest in is our economic production and productivity. And you can't do that without investing in people. So when you invest everywhere in this country, the person in Wajir who can grow massive citrus fruits and export, they can grow bananas, they can have a commercial rearing of beef, of goats, of camels and exporting. That's a massive. When you look at in terms of trade in this country, you find that livestock, hides and skin are a part of now one of the largest exports in this country. So how do we help those people? When you expand that horizons, you Bitokuru Noroga be talking about going to his Uansigisho place. He will find more resilience and more investment in Marsabit. Because it's access. You have built those people will be more. Every Kenyan will. When we talk about, they keep talking about what? Not inclusive political system. The political system becomes not exclusive when the economic system you have excludes. Yeah. So people in Kenya fight to come in because it is only where they see like they can have something for themselves. But if we are investing massively in opening up this country, to be honest, I have told Kikuyus this because I happen to be one of them. And I'm very honest, I don't shy away from this. You have more Kikuyus outside your so-called Mount Kenya, 5 counties, 5 counties, than there are more Kikuyus out there.
They are more in diaspora.
Yes, they are more in diaspora. So in fact, if you go to Lamu, for instance, almost half of Lamu people are Kikuyus. They form a barricade of them. So those people don't have roads, they don't have water, they don't have anything. So why would that quote unquote Kikuyu feel like I belong to Kikuyu? Does that Kikuyu need the Kikuyu in Kiambu or Murang'a? Or they want infrastructure, they want the services, those people are comfortable when you talk to them. So everywhere you are, let's build a country for all of us. And everybody. When I go to Marsabit, when I go to Madeira, I meet all kind of Kenyans there. When you talk to them, what they say, if you guys can support this county, get more road, get more hospital, get more courts, they are well organized, our security is taken care of. Why do I need to go anywhere? It is about diversifying and investing in our diversity and putting together what the Constitution provides. Remember this, the Constitution talks about equal society, equitable development, and shared prosperity. How are we going to share prosperity if we are not opening up our country together? So this is what I'm telling Kenyans. The court affirmed your sovereignty. The court affirmed the supremacy of the Constitution. The court affirmed your constituents' power the constituents' power to be able, as a people, to be the one to define the character of your country, of your nation, of the government you want. That's what the court said. So we must be able to enforce that. And Bitok is talking about Rida Katiba. Yes. Rida Katiba is precisely that. And Rida Katiba is not me. It is all of us as Kenyans. Individuals, entities who believe in the philosophy and the vision of Constitution 2010. That's what we believe in. A one united, inclusive Kenya based on the 4 principles I talked about. They are in the Constitution, each chapter. Inclusion, participation, equality, and openness. So even when we are talking about all these institutions and whatever you are talking about, and I like the way the Martin is putting it, we must always observe. If we have been respecting what the Constitution talks about when we are composing executive, if you go to Article 232 of the Constitution, it talks about inclusivity in public service. Yeah. Article 238 talks about inclusivity in security service. Right? But one interesting thing, and this is what I was commenting from your first Cora, it's something about diaspora. And I like the way they have been fighting. Because the Constitution affirmed their right. They cannot just be citizens only when you want their money. But you don't want them to participate in political processes, in decision-making processes, in contributing towards the country's public affairs decision-making. The Constitution, the courts have been affirming that right to the Kenyans who are in diaspora. They must be given an audience. It is their right. It is not a privilege. It is their right. And they must enjoy that right as what is guaranteed in the Constitution, as per what the courts have given them. Like, for instance, it was very interesting. You are conducting a BBI process. You want to fundamentally alter the Constitution, because that's what the BBI is all about, altering the fundamental structures of the Constitution. But you don't want to hear the voice of the people in diaspora, but you want their money. In fact, if you look at every day, every month, the central bank is publishing the remittance from the diaspora. Yeah. But when it comes to key decision making, you don't want them on the table. How? There's something called citizenship. Citizenship has a value. Citizenship has a right. Citizenship, they are Kenyans with rights which are embedded in the Constitution, and those rights are inherent. They are not privileges. So we must be able to encourage our Kenyans who are out there to become core players, key participants in our day-to-day affairs of our country. So, because their money is the one who's moving our economy, is it? Massively, So we must be able to make sure that those constitutional rights, guarantees they have, they enjoy them, basically.
Okay. All right. Mambo yako ya mwisho, NOORDEAN.
What I can say is that from the comments from the Kenyans, it's actually, it's for someone like him, for example, being called, in South Africa, they call it public protector. That's a very big term. If you were to use it in front of somebody like Julius Malema, he'd look at you twice and say, you must have substance in between your ears, So I believe where we are going, Kenya, like from our discussion, the judiciary is trying to find a way. Back then, Kenyans were afraid of the judiciary. They even, there are people, when you're being told, Kesho Kotini, they start shaking. Yeah. Because they think judiciary is this monster you know, the law is this big monster. It's meant for the rich. And that is what we need to demystify. The law is for everyone. And most of the time, it protects the helpless, not the rich. You know, that's what people don't understand. So I believe a lot of legal aid needs to be done in Kenya. And from where I sit, I believe some of us in the legal field, we need to wake up and do a lot of legal aid, because we have left that work to the civil society, which to some extent is not right. So we need to take up the mantle. Yes, you know, we might do pro bono cases here and there, but we a lot of legal aid needs to be done in Kenya so that people can actually know their rights.
In fact, one of the proposals I was making, I've been making this through Leader Katiba, is that because you are the legal fraternities all over this country, one thing I was actually suggesting was actually that we set up what you call a community Katiba running and action group. That becomes a very important tool, because you'll be able to educate local people on their basic rights on, say, for instance, access to justice, on their basic right when they get arrested. Those basic, they look very basic, but they're very important to those people. So I'm just supporting your point that you as legal fraternity need to come up with that community Katiba running sessions. People understand it, and people are now interested. This court and many other has made them become very excited about this court. The constitution, the way, you know, the constitution ilikuwa wakiona kama ni kitu ya huko. Now so it is us.
And the aspect of the community is important, because you see, people also need to know how they're being governed.
Exactly.
You see, the other hindrance to devolution is the governors. Because most of the governors are corrupt. That is the other problem that we have that is making devolution not a success. So people need to know how they are being governed, where their money is going, accountability. And so I believe more work needs to be done. We are not yet there, but looking forward, I see a bright future ahead. Yes.
Okay. Asante sana. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in. It's been a pleasure. We have to have you again next week.
Thank you.
Hopefully, if you guys are able to make time. The callers, we really appreciate you. And the Bungalow Mwananchi, nashukuru sana. Also, those guys who have been watching us both on YouTube and on Facebook. It has been an amazing show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for making time. This has been Sheria Wiki, the Friday of 21st May 2021. We come back again on Monday on the Common Sense edition, where we talk about life and money. But until then, enjoy your weekend. This is the Tackle and the Tackle Heads now. Bye-bye. Signing out.